Taylor, you going to be in this conversation? You can sit there. You can sit there. And you can shout things if you want us to.
Things we need to make sure we hit.
So, Secretary Sheahan, right?
Yes.
Madison.
Yes.
Can I call you Madison?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to be really formal and.
No, you
know?
don't have to be formal for this one.
Okay.
We're pretty easygoing around here.
Yeah. You are not from Louisiana. I get the same thing. Like, hey, when I say I'm from Mississippi, they're like, you're not from Mississippi.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not from Louisiana.
I'm not. I'm originally from Northwest Ohio. I grew up on Lake Erie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And had the chance to go to Ohio State. Studied public affairs.
Go Blue, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's always that contentious rivalry, and you got to deal with that part of it. But
Yeah.
that's okay. When you grow up in it, it's kind of ingrained into you. And my grandpa was a huge Ohio State fan, and so
Okay.
is everybody else in my family. And so going to Ohio State was a very big deal, and I was always very proud of that. But the rivalry for Michigan, and I rode at Ohio State, so the competitiveness in me is
Oh, wow.
through the roof, and
I'm sure.
even more so than
I'm surprised you
when you
didn't
grow
say,
up in
okay,
it.
Robbie, the podcast's over.
We could have, but we've got a lot of good things to talk about. So
I have a very good South African friend. I literally grew up across a golf course from him in South Africa. He came to the States to do a soccer scholarship. A lot of South Africans come over to the States to do soccer. And then he married a girl from Gahana, from
Okay.
Gahana, Ohio.
yeah, absolutely.
So I spent a lot of time during my PhD flying up into Columbus, Ohio, and spending time with him.
Okay.
So I enjoyed my time in Ohio.
I'm sure it's a great area. I spent about 4 years in Columbus at Ohio State, and then I stayed about a year afterwards too. So it
Had
was
you
great.
ever been to Louisiana before you got this gig?
So I had. So I actually had come down before for Governor Landry's alligator hunt, which
Oh,
is
okay.
actually getting ready to come up here soon.
Yeah.
And as we get into alligator season, and so I had the chance to come down for that, as well as while he was Attorney General, I came down and did some work for him. And so spent a lot of time with Governor Landry. I was working for Governor Nome in South Dakota, and
Yep.
he was the Attorney General at the time.
Okay.
Both of them served in Congress together, and so
You had
just-
cross paths with him?
absolutely, and just cross paths. And there's a lot of great organizations that help governors, like the Republican Governors Association, and our work through that had a lot of time to interact with, somebody's running for governor, like Governor Landry. And so we did a lot of work with him and a partnership that was great. And they worked together on some issues during
Okay.
COVID and things like that. So.
And now here you are.
And now here I am. So I had not come down during the summer yet. So the summer in Louisiana was a new adventure for me. And so like I said, I grew up in Lake Erie. And so it's humid there, but it's not Louisiana humid.
It's not swimming through the air humid.
Yes, absolutely. In South Dakota, there's no humidity.
Correct.
It's very similar to like Arizona, and it's hot, but it's not anything near what it is in Louisiana. It's hot summers and cold winters, and no in between. And
Well, it's
Louisiana
funny.
is
I've
nothing
had
like that.
I've had PhD students from Minnesota. When I was a professor at Mississippi State, and they'd come down. They're like, "Oh, it's not going to be that cold here." I was like, "You're going to be the coldest you've ever been
Absolutely.
down here because it's just bone chilling. Like that humidity at 35, 36 just gets into your bones, and man, it's."
It does every time. And that's when I came down in the winter, there was snow on the ground in my house in South Dakota, so I was expecting the same thing. It's going to be way colder back in South Dakota. I'm going to come down here, and it's
Yeah,
going to be like
be
a
easier breeze.
vacation. And it was pretty cold. I would get up in the
Mhm.
morning and go for a run, and I'd be in a full sweat, but I felt like it wasn't that bad out. And then you kind of learn to balance it after a while.
Yeah. So how long have you been on the job?
So we've been appointed since January 9th of this year. So we've been on the job about 9 months.
Still
now.
drinking from 25 fire hoses?
We are, a little bit of it, yes. We got a lot of moving parts here, and so there's
Sure.
about 800 people.
Sportsman's paradise. You're in charge of the sportsman's paradise now.
That's right. And so we've got about 800 people that are here at the department, and that's anywhere from your biologists to your veterinarians, our technicians, our game wardens. So we've got a lot of busy moving parts, which is a great thing too. This department and this agency sometimes moved a little slower in the past, and I think you kind of get that with state government, but we've been working very hard to drive it forward and move a little faster to try to meet the demand of the sportsman. And so we've got a lot of interaction with the sportsmen of Louisiana because we are the sportsman's paradise, and there's
100%.
a high demand and a high expectation of what comes out of this department. And what we're going to talk about today with the Black Bear is a prime example of a high performing department. And so, this is many years to come to get us to this point, but it's still a huge success story for us to be able to roll
Well,
out.
I'll give you kudos immediately. Obviously, Blood Origins lives in the digital media sphere. That's what we are. We live in social media. That's where everyone lives today. Everyone's got one of these, if not two of them, in their pockets. And I follow Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. And you have been a little bit more proactive than in the past on your socials.
Absolutely.
And I liked seeing videos of you, the top boss, essentially, out in the field, congratulating, talking to people about successes of habitat restoration and what it means for the wildlife resource and what it means for the people and what it means for the people's kids one day and their resources.
Absolutely.
So kudos.
Well, thank you. And I think for us and being the 27-year-old secretary and coming in, and everybody wondered, why would you do that? And, what is Governor Landry thinking? And I think we've proved over the last 9 months what he was thinking and why he did it. But I think what you're speaking to is one of the main things that we as an executive team wanted to change. We wanted to really rebrand what people think about the department, take things as proactive instead of just reactive, and really bring an executive level leadership that allows us to do that. And one of the things for me that I learned from Governor Noem and Governor Landry over the last few years is that you have to get out and talk to people. You have to figure out what the sportsmen are experiencing every day, but also how we can help and fix their issues, but then actually get in the weeds with them and be willing to do the things that we ask our employees to do every day, whether it's collecting alligator eggs or doing maintenance on our properties, or just interacting with the public on a daily basis. We owe that to the people of Louisiana, and we wanted to make sure we brought that to the table. But when you're 27 years old and you grew up with social media,
100%.
the value it brings.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sit here and convince me that it brings value. I already know that because I think most people get their news from Facebook and Instagram and Twitter or X, and that's where most people get their news. So why wouldn't we meet people where they're at instead of forcing them to come on to one of our platforms or something else?
Agreed.
We can just meet these sportsmen where they're at and try to get them as much information as possible, but also talk about how great the department is. I think it's been for so long we've never told our story. And so, and conservation doesn't ever really tell their story because, everybody's kind of stuck on the same path, and conservation takes a long time. I mean, the black bear issue is ongoing for the last 50, 60 years. And so to tell a story that's really 60 years old, and, we're just now getting the fruit of that success, and most people don't want to keep talking about black bears for 60 years, but if you don't, you kind of lose the gem that we have here. And so whether it's doing it with the black bear, or we've got whooping crane projects going on.
You have the most successful alligator conservation success story probably in the world.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And that was, in partnership with farmers and public organizations and private organizations. And, being able to go out and tell those stories gets us more private organizations coming in and helping us, and more public organizations stepping in. And whether it's Safari Club or Order Teddy Roosevelt or any of these organizations that play a huge role in conservation that, are out there trying to tell their story, and we're kind of the product of that success story.
You nailed it on the head when you said state agencies do a terrible job of patting themselves on the back and telling your story and being very forthcoming in that. And that's one of the things that we've aimed to do. Is look, hey, Georgia, hey, Arkansas, that's how I reached out to, and I'll take this as, I'm probably the only person who has now podcasted with this one with you, the two youngest directors of wildlife fisheries in the country. That's where I started when I reached out to Austin Booth in Arkansas. Yep. Austin and I are great mates, and he's actually going to be in a dancing competition. Did you know he's going to be in a dancing competition?
No, I did not know that.
This September, he's probably going to kill me because it's on the podcast now. But if you want to fundraise for Austin, you can give him money and he'll show you dance moves.
That's great.
Yeah. But I said to Austin, Austin, you guys do fantastic work. And why does anybody know about it? And he was like, you're right. And so just like you in social media, you're using a different mechanism to engage the public. And Austin did the same thing. Austin's young, and he's like, man, I want to move away from just like this sort of brain and brawns kind of mentality to shifting to hearts and minds. And if you get hearts and minds, you've won the race at the end of the day. And that's what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that was the thing for us is, you have all of these historic forms of communication, whether it's print or television or things like that, but that's not really what people are looking at anymore. They're looking at what's on their phone, what's available in a 60-second or shorter video or pictures, and really being able to tell a story that way. And if you look through our social media, you're going to see a story, a successful conservation story. And just like you said, it's about winning hearts and minds. It's about telling people what we're doing, why we're doing it, the impact it has on them, and why this is a success story for them. And so whether you're looking at what we did a few weeks ago with the black belly whistling duck, talking about being able to bring a season to Louisiana, to be able to persuade the federal level to allow us to start that conversation and be able to have a season for a bird that really is overpopulated at this point in Louisiana, wanting to kind of bring that success story back, but actually going out and telling people what we're doing and why we're doing it, why we need a season, why we see this overpopulation, and really how we can be successful together. I mean, the sportsmen rely on us to provide them opportunity, and being able to do that every day is what we aim to do, whether it's a black bear and being able to get it to the point of a hunting season, or it's, just adding a season for something that's already very populated in the area.
So let's talk about black bears. That's what we're here for. We've got 2 podcasts already that somebody may have listened to, and you haven't listened to them, go back and listen to them. One with Maria Davidson, which is talking about the history, like she was involved from the get-go. And then John Hanks, who's now your bear biologist, as I understand it.
Yes.
And when I last talked to John, it was like, hey, the NOI is about to get approved. We don't know where we're at right now, but it's coming. And there's a whole slew of other stuff that's going to be coming after that to get sort of prepared for a potential bear season.
Yes.
Well, it's not a potential bear season anymore, right?
It's a bear season. And so as we look forward to being able to welcome the season in December. December 1st.
December 1st through like the 22nd or something like that, right?
Yep.
20-day season.
It's about, a 20 to 14-day season. And so, and it'll really kind of depend. We assume most people are going to shoot the black bears right away. It encompasses 2 weekends to provide a little more opportunity. We've got 10 tags that are going to go out to the public. And
it's only 10, right? It's not like the traditional like Missouri season that gives 400 tags out with a quota of 40.
Yes. It's only 10 tags.
10 people
yes.
will draw 10 tags.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
And that's just for the first year. We'll obviously look to expand that. So in Louisiana, I'm sure John explained a lot of this, but we only manage about 1,100 to 1,200 bears.
Correct.
And because of that number, we're basing it off of that. Now, most people will say, well, we've seen way more bears than that. There are heavily congested areas. We've seen them in all parishes in Louisiana, but we actively manage 1,200 of them. And we obviously are always working to add more bears into that and really manage as much as we can, but we have to look at this holistically in a long-term plan. And so we've looked at models other states have used to be able to provide seasons and kind of reset and restart. And what we found is that this 10 tags kind of hits the sweet spot in where the population currently sits, and then allows us to reassess every year after that. And so what you're going to see is 10 tags in our Tinsall area. It's our bear area number 4.
Yep.
And that's where all these bears will be killed. And the idea there is that we're only going to be shooting male bears. And so, and the issue with that is that we believe that if, for some reason, 10 female bears were killed with these game violations, that the population will still be sustained.
Yeah, your science is incredible.
Yes, absolutely. And all of that has been well thought out ahead of time. And what we didn't want to happen, obviously we don't want anybody to shoot female bears. But if something were to happen, and those game violations would be presented, we would know that we can still manage the population.
Yeah.
And it would still be sustainable enough to continue. And so what we didn't want to see is put ourselves in a situation where 400 tags went out,
100%.
and then we couldn't manage
Yeah.
what was actually being done, and being able to look at it year after year and be able to actually do this is really exciting. And the lottery's open right now, and it's going to be open most of the month of September for us to be able to get as many people involved in the lottery as possible to have an opportunity to shoot one of these 10 tags.
And it's been open for like 2 or 3 days already, right?
It was open last Thursday.
Taylor, what's the number right now that you have of applicants? You can just yell at us.
136 general, 152 private, and WMA is 176.
Can people individually
Yes.
apply for each of them? So is there duplications
There
across
could
those?
be, but so the landowner is specific to a specific group.
Okay.
So that group will actually likely stay the smallest number this entire process because there's only so many people that qualify into that landowner.
So do we think there's over like 200 that have applied in 3 days? 200, 300?
In total now,
How many?
close to 500.
500 in total in 3 days. And you're open for 30 days.
We're open for 30
What do you
days.
predict?
I think we're probably going to see anywhere from probably 3,500 to 5,000.
That's a good number.
And so,
That's what I thought.
and that would be kind of our hope to get that much engagement on this. And again, with the changes in the way we're marketing things, the social media, having the
Oh, for
governor's
sure.
input, it changes the game. And folks like yourself and Safari Club and all of these other organizations that have come in and helped us are also promoting this. And
Mhm.
so as much promotion as we can do to make sure people know about it, because the last thing that I want is somebody to call and say, hey, I didn't even know this was going on.
Oh,
So
come on.
to make sure that's prevented and everybody has the opportunity to be able to get themselves in the lotteries,
Yeah.
and whether it's on our WMAs or private lands or just the general public tags,
I'm not ignoring you. I'm pulling up what we posted the other day about it. And there was one stupid comment. I'll read it to you. 10 permits a year. I'd just continue hunting states with over-the-counter tags. Chances of drawing a permit are slim to none. And I said, this is the very first season. Residents only. So
Absolutely.
clearly this person's not even in Louisiana. So
absolutely
residents only.
residents only.
I already know families that are like, dad's putting in for the sons. Dad's putting in for granddad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a whole, like, oh my gosh moment.
It is, and in Louisiana, the hunting culture is so ingrained into most Louisiana families. And so when you grow up hunting and fishing, just like I did in Ohio, being able to be presented with this opportunity is incredible. And really to be able to show the success story and the amount of engagement that we can get from folks when you want your kids and grandkids involved and your parents and grandparents, you want everybody involved. And hunting and fishing in Louisiana is part of that culture. And that's kind of what we're seeing play out with this bear tag. And it's just, kind of an incubator for success of what we can see as a department.
Well, it's an incubator of success. And I don't know how you feel about this, but it's an incubator of success of ESA.
Yes.
Now, ESA has its faults, and we know where the faults lie in it, specifically with wolves and grizzlies.
Absolutely.
But the Louisiana black bear is a champion of a success story of ESA.
Absolutely. On multiple fronts. I mean, between the alligator, the black bear, we reintroduced the eagle into Louisiana. There's a bunch of other species that we've started the process. You've got the whooping crane projects that are going on. And these projects aren't cheap either. And so we've invested large amounts of public dollars and private dollars to be able to have this and, being able to make sure things come off of the Endangered Species Act. It's definitely a well thought out process. Obviously, like you said, it has its flaws, and most states never get anything off of the list.
100%.
And it's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, it's almost unheard of. And to be able to do it not only once, but twice,
Yeah.
and really in the same generation to be
Yep.
able to do this, and is a huge success story. I mean, for all of us, whether, you're a farmer in Louisiana that's had these bears on our property, or a private landowner who allows us to go out and actually manage these bears on your property, or you're an organization that just loves hunting and fishing. And, this doesn't necessarily just include organizations like Safari Club. We've had all of your turkey organizations help us. We've had a lot of outside organizations outside of the state help us. And it's not just coming up with a success story for the people of Louisiana, but really for the country itself. To be able to have these conversations and folks to step in, no matter where you're based, and want to help and want to promote this is a huge success story. And we're able to tell that story. And I think every day that I can get out and tell it, and my team can get out and tell it, is a win for the people of Louisiana.
Yeah, 100%. So I don't know if this is set up. I'm just interested in the question. So what is it to buy a tag? $50.
Yes.
$50, right? 5,000 times 50. How's my math? What's that? Oh, and of 25. Okay, so that's then plus 5,000 plus 20 times 25. So that's three. If we said 5,000 people applied, that's potentially $375,000
Yes.
by hunters
Yes.
to apply for a chance.
Yes.
What's 10 out of 5,000? Come on, Madison, help me with my math here. That's 0.2% of a chance.
Absolutely.
0.2% of a chance, but people are willing to put $75 up for
be able to
0.2%
do
of a
this.
chance. Where does the money go?
All of it is going into our black bear fund.
Oh, sweet.
And so everything is
Amazing.
going right back to the conservation of this animal. And so over the last 60 or so years of being able to really create this success story that we're talking about, a lot of private dollars, a lot of public dollars have gone into this. And it's also very sustainable for us to do into the future when dollars continue to come into that. And so what we wanted to make sure of is that this project was sustainable, that when this initial round goes through, the money that gets put into these accounts provide us a success story that continues for many years to come, for another 60 years, and then 60 years after that, to make sure that we are doing our best to put it back into the programs that it comes out of. And so being able to promote this and be able to get as many people into the lottery as possible, those dollars are all going to be used for more black bear tags. They're all going to be
100%.
used for more acres of land to be recovered.
Absolutely.
And so over the course of this, we've recovered about 800,000 acres of land to be
Wow.
able to make sure that
Private
not only
land, right?
private land,
Yeah.
public lands, to make sure that they're sustainable for these black bear populations. And so when you're making an investment like that, it's not just the animal itself that we're talking about, it's the land, it's the people around it that these species have impacts on. And so anytime we're able to really promote that and kind of bring that into the fold and add more funds to those accounts, that's really what we're trying to do.
And nobody can say anything about who is funding conservation at that point.
Absolutely.
Except you regularly get checks, $250,000 checks from Humane Society, right, for black bear conservation here?
No,
No? You sure?
maybe.
No, you don't. So at the end of this, I told Taylor I would love to help, but what I'm showing you there is that's an infographic that we built for Pennsylvania.
Oh, great.
Pennsylvania's bear season. And so what you see there is that they sell, the bear tag in Pennsylvania is almost like an add-on. It's like I hope I get a bear, when they buy their whitetail license. And they sell $3.6 million worth of black bear tags.
Wow.
And the chance of taking a bear is 1.6%.
Wow.
And they raise $3.6 million for their black bear program every year. So in
That's
3
insane.
days, you've already raised almost $40,000
Right.
for your black bear program.
Well, and for us, not only are we, like I said, rehabilitating this land and the animal and this impact that it has on the farmers and the communities at a local level, but also at the state level, what you're realizing is that sportsmen are the reason, we are the sportsman's paradise.
Exactly.
Yes, we have the science, and yes, we have the biologists and the technicians and the game wardens, and we do manage, we do conserve, and we do protect the sportsman's paradise, but it's not the sportsman's paradise without all of the people in Louisiana and all of the sportsmen that come here to hunt and fish every day.
I'll tell you before, I don't want to, how do I say this? I don't want to change what you're about to say, so I won't tell you what I think is potentially the greatest thing that comes out of this. What do you think? What's the greatest thing that's coming out of this season for black bears for you?
For us, I think, what we've been talking about this whole time, that the success story to get something off the Endangered Species Act, to be able to provide hunting opportunities for the people of Louisiana. Our job is to make sure that we're managing all these species so that we can have hunting seasons. It's not just to manage them and make sure that they're all allowed to be out in the wild. I mean, that's going to naturally happen, but be able to provide something to the hunter of Louisiana, to the sportsman of Louisiana, to me is the greatest success story. But also, I think the other thing that we're seeing is the investment in the sportsman's paradise, in this department, and all of the work that is put in by our biologists and our technicians and the folks that are a part of this department every day. And, making sure that we have a success story that when it comes time to do this another time, we have, the road work and the model to be able to do that. And I think for me, that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, when I was a professor, I told the students that I taught that would become wildlife biologists for the state of Louisiana or the state of Mississippi. And I said, I take my job so seriously as a professor because you guys are going to be the stewards of my resources one day. You're going to be the stewards for my kids one day. And I came from a country, South Africa, that there is no public land. There is no access to any of that kind of stuff. And so the privilege that you have here of experience in the natural resources that you have and the abundance of natural resources that you have. And then you have agencies that are in charge of those resources. And that's why, right now Colorado is just so messed up that they've got a ballot initiative process to try and get rid of mountain lion hunting. And it's like, why are you taking that out of the hands of the people that have spent 5, 6, 7 years studying to be the best that they can be?
Right.
And so I don't think that there is a greater satisfaction in a job. And look, state agency jobs, it's state government, it's, long hours, not great pay, but people do it because of that. Like, this is what I want to do for my state. And a biologist like John Hanks, who's in the bear program, seeing this resource that he has, like a gardener, has tended his garden for so long and done all the things that necessary to get the resource that he is in charge to a point where it has gone from being endangered to being at a population level that now harvest can take place, that it does not impact the work that he has done for 20 years, because a lot of people will point the finger and go, oh, you're going to take us back to where you were. Right. No, we won't. The 1980s and 1990s are not the 2020s. The regulations we have in place, just talk about social media in itself as a regulatory mechanism for people to do the right thing. There is no way that the Louisiana black bear will go endangered again as a result of harvest.
Right.
Okay? There's same thing with wolves, same thing with grizzlies. There's no way it's going back to where it was because of everything that the society has today in place. And I think that's, something to be super, super proud of. And these resource biologists, they're it. Like, this is their moment. This is the moment where they can sit back and go, wow.
Absolutely.
Look at what we did.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great part about conservation. And like I said earlier, it takes so long to get us to this point, but at the end of it, we have a huge success story. We have all of the work that's been put in by many years of biology and all of the work that has been done on whether it's our property or private lands to be able to get us to this point and really be able to see something tangible come out of it. And you're exactly right that a department that is running like it should, that is being good stewards of the land and of the natural resources that we've been asked to manage and protect, is not going to let that happen either. And there's measurements in place to make sure that doesn't happen. And when you look at just like the 10 tags, some people are saying, well, that's too small. We've got bears everywhere. And other people are saying that's too many. And I know you're never really going to make everybody happy, and you have to deal with part of that as well. But what it is us making sure that those protections are put in place. And, we know that putting as many tags out there as possible is not the right decision. We know that the science is based on 10 tags. And next year it might be based on 15. It also might be based on 10. And being able to have those conversations and know where we need to be and where we sit and why is really the difference maker. And I think that's where Louisiana has shown so much success within this department for so many years, and having the history from whether it's Maria or John, and really just to have those conversations and have a full picture of where we sit is really the success story in itself.
I was a very close second success to me is I hope I can get invited. We'll just have to figure out who one of the tag winners are. Is I can't begin to imagine what a Cajun will do to bear meat in the backwoods of wherever they cook it. It is certainly going to be quite delicious if they do it in a jambalaya or they do whatever. I don't know, but that's pretty high up there.
I'd think so. I'm sure that, and I know there's a lot of interest to have those conversations and see what's going to happen with the bear meat and the carcasses themselves. And I'm sure knowing
Well, there's some big. There's
people
going
of
to be
Louisiana,
monster bears.
there's going to be some
big
monsters.
boys.
Absolutely, and there's going to be a lot of meat there for us to figure out how to cook. But, I'd leave it to the people of Louisiana to figure
For
that out
sure.
very easily.
100%.
It's hard to have a bad meal down here, that's
Oh
for
no,
sure.
100%. No, I think that I love the story. I love the story of, where you've come from. I love the story of ESA working. I love the story of the resource. I love the fact that it's, you've got this sportsman's paradise that you've got probably the most connected people to the land when it comes to hunting and fishing here in Louisiana, and the swamps and everything
Absolutely.
associated with it, and the food element to
Mhm.
it. It's just like it's almost not, dare I say, not meant to be, but it didn't happen by chance.
Absolutely. This has been a lot of work by a lot of different people, a lot of different organizations, whether it's, like I said, private landowners or, your safari clubs, your Roosevelt groups, no matter who it is,
Mhm.
and even the feds. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife has stepped in on multiple occasions and helped, whether it's the lawsuits that we've had to deal with through this process or passing legislation, Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. It doesn't matter if they have conservation in their name, they have stepped in and helped if they're an organization that wants to promote hunting and fishing. And, there'll always be groups that don't, and we understand that, and we'll fight those battles when we have to. But the groups that understand that agriculturists, that farmers, that ranchers, that hunters, that fishermen, those are the groups of people that really are true conservationists. I grew up on a farm in Northwest Ohio, and the one thing I've realized from growing up and living in Columbus, you're in the middle of the city, and then you move to South Dakota, which is a ton of ranches, and then you come kind of back to a city in Baton Rouge. The one thing I've realized kind of throughout my whole life is that your agriculturists, your hunters, your sportsmen are true conservationists. They're the ones taking care of the land and being stewards of the land, and there's nobody who wants their field to look better than a farmer.
Oh, for sure.
There's nobody that wants that crop to look better. And my brother raises sheep. There's nobody who wants to make sure his sheep look better than he does, and making sure that they have the
And the
the
animal
resources.
welfare of that, right? He's going to be the
Absolutely.
one that looks after them the best.
Absolutely. And the same with whether it's a hunter and they're making sure that their property is up to standard of how they want to see, and make sure duck management comes in, and make sure deer come in, and you see this in a lot of our private landowners, and in Louisiana that culture runs so deep. You see it every day, and they're really the ones, whether it's funding these organizations or being able the ones who are actually out stewarding the land. They're a true conservationist. We can't do it alone. Like I said, we only have 800 people here at the department, which obviously seems like a lot, but everybody is tasked with different responsibilities. And, our bear program only has 2 people in it. And so they
Well,
obviously...
it's about to get a lot more money.
Absolutely. And, when you're tapped in and you're engaging every part of the department when they need help or whatever they may need, it's really a full team effort. But, when you only have 2 people that are really able to promote this story
Sure.
is an incredible feat as well.
Maybe next year, I can guarantee you, again, money for conservation, money for black bear program. Obviously this year, 10 resident tags. It's Louisiana. We want to keep it Louisiana. You put up 1 non-resident tag and even charge double for that non-resident tag, I could almost put money down that you would make at least $500,000 on that one non-resident Louisiana black bear tag.
I'm sure it would be very popular. And, our thing from the start was that we wanted to make sure that we provided the opportunity first to the people of Louisiana have done all the work to get into this. But it's not out of the question to start having those conversations of what an out-of-state season would look like as well, and be able to provide that opportunity to everybody who's been a part of this process.
Yeah. Are you allowed to put in for the lottery? Is there some political conflict of interest?
We are not allowed to put in the lottery. It's in the policy of the department that we don't allow any of our employees to go into the lotteries. So I think there'd be a lot of people here that would want to be a part of the lottery, including myself. So no doubt there, but we've got a lot of people who deserve to be able to do this, and that's why we serve them.
So let's wrap this podcast up with logistics. We are currently right now in the lottery. The lottery is open right now.
The lottery is open right now.
This podcast will probably drop close to the end of February, end of September. So when does the lottery close?
So it closes on September 25th.
September 25th. Okay, so the podcast will come out before then.
Okay. So we'll be kind of getting to the end of the lottery. So hopefully by then we have a lot more than just.
And where can people go?
Go to our website.
Okay.
We can go to our website to apply, and hopefully we'll have a lot more people than we currently have with the numbers we're talking about right now.
3 days.
I know. We'll
Did you have
keep
higher
moving forward.
expectations for 3 days?
My expectations are always very high, so that's hard to say. But we're excited about it, and by the time this podcast comes out, we'll be kind of nearing the end of that. After those tags are selected, they'll be selected.
So talk about the lottery's going to close on the 25th.
Yes.
Do you have a date by which the lottery will be drawn, like the residents will be notified?
So it'll be able to happen very quickly, and then we'll notify all of those folks, and then by November, there'll be 2 dates for them to come in and actually have a course for the black bear. So those tags will really be selected in the month of October.
And so those 10 people are going to go through a course to identify, because nobody knows here, right?
Right. We're going to go through the whole...
What's a female bear? What's a black bear? What can you do? What can't you do?
Absolutely.
Where do you shoot it? Nobody
Yes,
nobody
absolutely.
knows.
And so we're putting that whole process together.
Okay, brilliant.
And provide that educational component that we need to provide to the sportsmen of the state, so they know exactly what they're getting into, whether it's, how to shoot a black bear, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, making sure we're only shooting male black bears, and making sure those processes and things take place correctly. And so that process will start in November as well.
So what happens if somebody does shoot a female?
So we're looking at that of how we're going to handle that with the season coming up, because there are only 10 tags. Obviously, we don't want any.
You want to limit them as much as you possibly.
Want to limit them as much as possible, and it will be a game violation, and so we need to take a look at that if we're gonna exactly how that'll be enforced, because the biggest problem that we have, or the biggest concern, is that folks without tags will go and kill at that time, and just try to make sure
Sweep
that
it under the rug.
Yes, and so we've kind of been talking with our enforcement division to make sure everything is set in place that doesn't happen. But obviously things can happen once you're out in the field.
100%.
And so we're looking at that process right now on a black bear. I think if you kill off the top of my head, if you kill a black bear right now in Louisiana, it's a $10,000 fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times what you'll see is that somebody kills a nuisance black bear, even though you shouldn't do that, they do it anyways, and then we have to deal with it from our game warden standpoint.
Yeah, it's a lot more nuanced than just,
And so that's one thing we're looking at, because what we don't want to do is provide an opportunity, and then if you're not educated correctly, and that's on us as a department, okay, what next step do we take? And so we're trying to think through a lot of those processes at that front end, so that way we have a plan, something rolled out that we can give to folks that day of the training and let them know this is what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the next steps forward.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm really excited about that. I like that education component, because if you've never hunted a black bear, you have no idea the difference between a male and a female.
Absolutely.
I am notorious. It's a good thing you don't have it open to non-resident, because if I drew the tag, I probably wouldn't kill a black bear. It's like my nemesis animal. I've been up to Maine like 5 times and have sat in a tree stand for 72 hours, 74 hours of sitting in a tree stand, and I've seen 1 bear.
Really?
Yep. Don't rub it in. It's okay.
My brother and my dad used to go every year up
No,
to
don't
Canada.
tell me that they go and kill. It's
Yep.
easy. No. Everyone tells me.
And they've done it a couple times. So.
Yeah. Well, look, Madison, thank you so much. I'll say this after the podcast. I'll say it on the podcast. Blood Origins was built for you. It was built for your agency. It was built for the community of hunters to be able to tell our story to as bigger, as wide of an audience as we possibly can get. And every day we grow. So if there's anything we can do, obviously the podcast is one of them, but if there's anything we can do from a collaboration perspective or an infographic perspective, like afterwards, after it's all said and done, we'd love to build an infographic that says how much actual money was raised for 10 tags
Perfect.
in the state of Louisiana. And yeah, if there's anything else we can do, the door's wide open.
Well, thank you for having us. And anytime we can talk about this success story is a great win for us. And we'll continue to tell our story with folks like yourself.
Yeah, well, and young secretaries like yourself understanding social media. And I'll have to apologize. I think on the way down here, I said I'm going to go and speak to the youngest secretary commissioner of wildlife and fisheries across the country, and I thought you were 28. So I apologize.
Only 27.
Only
That's
27.
Okay.
So, but no, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And again, let us know if we can help.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. I appreciate you listening, as always. Leave a review, share it with your friends, and most importantly, do what's right to convey the truth around hunting.